Chapter 22 Ringo on the Run. As the return route was being processed, Ringo moved slowly, hugging the walls of corridors and sticking to the shadows as much as his AI could. He was making progress towards the southern entrance. All the intersections so far had led nowhere. This was definitely no Death Star with an intentional error built in. It was built as tight as a drum. Ringo rolled on, retracing his steps, ever cautious of being spotted. Though his AI was quite brilliant, his size was definitely on his side too. How Elon had managed to pack so much into such a small space was a true engineering wonder. Now, no more than a few meters from the southern entrance, Ringo's AI started to search for a control panel to open the doors, though none was immediately apparent. What was becoming clear was that the network of ducts and channels that carried the cables and air around the base were perhaps where a solution lay. Once he had appeared at the southern entrance, his sensors kicked into a full-on scan. Slowly every surface was interrogated for a switching mechanism. Just as quickly, though, none was found. The AI determined there was no direct control. It made sense that with such a secure base's primary points of entry and egress would be centrally controlled. Some other method was going to have to be found, some form of subterfuge to get the controllers of the base to pop the door. There had to be an electrical or fire warning system. It would only take a small actuation for there to be a big enough gap for Ringo to slip through. As the AI routines were beginning to run out of options, they spotted a fire detector. A small flash would be sufficient to set it off and hopefully ensure a physical visual inspection by a worker or some sort. Small antennae appeared from Ringo's tail, looking somewhat like a scorpion stinger. It could pack a high-energy punch when required. Placed a few millimeters from the sensor, the flash was visible a few feet away, but the source was not. When a siren started wailing, Ringo darted for a nearby shadowed ledge that offered just enough cover to hide him. The doors were only a few feet away, waiting to scurry. It would be a few minutes till someone came to investigate. 89 seconds later that someone appeared, wearing a bright orange jumpsuit. It was a lower-order worker, which in this case meant the supervisor. The one to open the door would more than likely still be in the control room. "I can see the detector, but I can see no reason for it going off," said the worker into a handheld radio. "Okay," came the reply. "I'll pop the doors open for you to double-check outside." This instruction gave Ringo's AI hope. The doors would soon be open, but a small diversion would still be required in order to escape unseen. "Doors opening," the voice over the radio stated. "Yes, sir," replied orange-suited man. As the sunlight started to pour through the widening gap, Ringo readied his next plan, a small bolt of electric to the rear of the worker. "Ouch!" yelled the worker as he grabbed his butt. Using this as his cue, Ringo darted out from the ledge and out through the gap. 10 seconds later he was secured to Droney, and they were flying back to Graham and Bouncer. As the pair flew back, the worker reported all clear and the doors shut tight on the base. His sensors had collected some great intelligence. Graham and Bouncer would be able to work out their next moves and for the first time so far perhaps even get a step ahead of Sebastian and Sepulchre. Arriving at the improvised base, Droney descended and dropped Ringo into Bouncer's hands. "What's next, Graham?" "We'll download the recordings and see what we can see," replied Graham. A few minutes later, Graham and Bouncer sat watching and listening to recorded conversation. "This solarium sounds interesting, hey Graham?" "It does, Bouncer, it does, but I am more concerned what they plan to do with it, though. I think we have to get ourselves to Greece before Sebastian and get hands on this site. It may be the only way we can prevent Sebastian from winning another round. From what Deli has told us, he has had it all his own way for many years. It is time he met us. What do you reckon, Bouncer?" "I'm with you, Graham. The farmer boys take out the bad guys," Bouncer roared like a lion. "Right then," said Graham. "Which way to Greece?" As the boys packed up their site and started the return leg to their hotel, Marco's vehicle appeared over a dune about 2 kilometers away. The boys were not even aware. Marco was overjoyed. He'd spent the last 23 hours trying to catch up, and now he would be able to stop them in their tracks and win those desperately needed brownie points. What he could not work out was why they were heading back to town. As he neared them, all of a sudden a drone appeared in front of him with a red dot laser firmly set on his chest. "Stop and get out of your vehicle!" The electronic voice was clear and concise. "If you do not stop, you will be stopped." Marco pulled to a stop, his hands held high as he got out of his car. "What are you doing here?" asked a remote voice. "What is it to you?" replied Marco. "I am the person who secured your services in London. Do you need to tell me anything, Marco?" No, I was simply out for a drive." Marco had to cover up his incompetence at all costs. He could not afford to lose this business. "Out for a drive? Well, why don't you just get back to finding those people I asked you to tail?" "Now." The voice broke off, and by the time Marco had turned back to his car, the boys were gone. Marco took a deep breath and swore never to leave London again.